4. Why clients don't say what they mean. How risk, exposure, and expectation quietly reshape expression. One of the most persistent frustrations in client work is the sense that something is being left unsaid. Instructions feel incomplete. Agreement sounds confident but proves fragile. Clarifications raise more questions than they answer. Professionals often describe this experience as pulling information out or reading between the lines, without quite understanding why it feels necessary in the first place. Clients rarely withhold meaning deliberately. In most cases, they are managing risk rather than information. Understanding why clients do not always say what they mean requires stepping away from the idea that communication is a neutral exchange. In high-stakes, multilingual, and multicultural environments, speaking plainly is not always the safest option. What is said, how it is said, and what is left unsaid are shaped by exposure, hierarchy, and expectation long before intent enters the picture. Meaning competes with safety. Clear communication assumes that expressing meaning carries little risk. In many client environments, the opposite is true. Saying too much, too early, or too precisely can create vulnerability. It can expose uncertainty, internal disagreement, or lack of authority. Once spoken, words cannot be withdrawn. As a result, clients often prioritize safety over precision. They speak in ways that keep options open, preserve credibility, and avoid committing to positions that may later become difficult to defend. Language becomes carefully calibrated rather than fully expressive. This is not evasiveness. It is strategic caution. The cost of clarity is not evenly distributed. For professionals with authority, fluency, and internal backing, clarity feels inexpensive. For clients operating under scrutiny or constraint, clarity can be costly. A precise answer may require confirmation that has not yet been secured. A direct disagreement may disrupt hierarchy. An explicit commitment may expose them to accountability they cannot manage alone. When the cost of clarity feels high, people reduce it. They soften language. They generalize. They respond at a level that feels safe rather than complete. The resulting communication often sounds vague or incomplete, even though it is carefully chosen. Second language processing limits expression. In multilingual contexts, this effect is amplified. Clients working in a second or third language often know exactly what they want to say, but not how safely to say it. Expressing nuance requires confidence not only in vocabulary, but in tone, implication, and cultural interpretation. Under pressure, many multilingual speakers simplify their expression to reduce risk. They avoid conditional phrasing that might be misread. They rely on familiar structures rather than exact language. They choose neutrality over specificity. The meaning is present internally, but its expression is constrained. This can be deeply frustrating for fluent listeners who sense that something is missing without being able to locate it. Hierarchy silences uncertainty. Hierarchy exerts a quiet but powerful influence on what is said. Clients may be accountable to senior stakeholders who are absent from the conversation. They may be expected to appear aligned even when internal debate continues. In these situations, expressing uncertainty feels dangerous. Rather than say, "I don't know yet," clients may say that should be fine. Rather than admit misalignment, they may signal agreement while planning to revisit later. Rather than ask a clarifying question, they may proceed on assumption. These behaviors protect status and avoid embarrassment, but they also delay alignment. Politeness replaces precision. In many cultures, politeness is not decorative, it is structural. Maintaining harmony, avoiding embarrassment, and preserving relationships are core communication goals. Direct disagreement or correction may be seen as disrespectful, regardless of intent. In such environments, clients often communicate indirectly. Requests are framed as suggestions. Disagreement is hinted at rather than stated. Ambiguity is used to maintain flexibility. For those unfamiliar with this logic, the result feels unclear or evasive. In reality, meaning is being negotiated socially rather than stated explicitly. Why follow-up reveals what wasn't said. Much of what clients do not say emerges later, through revision, delay, or adjustment. A previously agreed plan is quietly amended. Scope expands incrementally. Timelines shift without explanation. These changes often reflect information or constraints that were present earlier but could not be voiced at the time. From the outside, this feels inefficient and frustrating. From within the client system, it is often the only safe way to surface complexity without destabilizing the relationship. The danger of assuming transparency. Professionals accustomed to direct communication often assume that silence indicates consent and clarity indicates agreement. In global client work, this assumption is risky. Silence may signal caution. Agreement may indicate politeness. Clarity may be provisional. When these signals are taken at face value, misalignment accumulates quietly. By the time the gap becomes visible, it is harder to close without tension. Listening for what cannot be said. Managing this dynamic requires a different form of listening. Instead of focusing only on content, attention shifts to constraints. Where does language become careful? Where does certainty thin? Where are decisions deferred without explanation? These are not failures of communication, they are clues. Professionals who recognize these patterns do not force clarity prematurely. They create conditions where it becomes safer to speak. They invite alignment without demanding exposure. They understand that meaning often needs support to surface. From frustration to informed intervention. When clients speak indirectly, the natural impulse is to press for more explicit answers. In many cases, this increases pressure and reinforces silence. A more effective approach is to address the conditions that make clarity costly in the first place. This chapter lays the groundwork for that shift. By understanding why clients withhold or soften meaning, you move from frustration to informed intervention. The chapters that follow build on this insight, showing how to stabilize meaning early, read emotional climate accurately, and apply communication controls that reduce risk without reducing honesty. Once the reasons behind silence and ambiguity are visible, they lose much of their power to derail the conversation.